Jeff, Jimmy, Wig, Taj, Cat. Jimmy said, I ain't playing with them. We all, damn. D Rose was like, he was like, well, Derek, you're in the starting group. D Rose was like, all right. Jimmy said, I'm playing with them. He picked the Bad News Bears. Jumped the ball. He's like, I got Cat. I was like, oh shit. So Jimmy and Cat ain't like each other. That's another part of the story I get to one day. They ain't like each other. Yeah, it gets real funny when they don't like each other. So they jump the ball. We throw it to Cat first play. Jimmy steal it. Go down, score. They go down, score. Like, come on.
These are considered the worst teammates in NBA history, starting with Tony Parker. Now, Tony Parker is a legendary 6-time All-Star, 4-time All-NBA, and one of the most crucial players in the Spurs dynasty with 4 championships and a Finals MVP to his name. The Spurs, by many measures, were almost a flawless team, and by the conclusion of their era, due to their culture, trust on the court, and selflessness, there were instances where they displayed what could be described as the most perfect basketball ever played. However, before Kawhi Leonard established himself with the Finals MVP, prior to the close call with Ray Allen's three-pointer, and before their last championship as a franchise, this team was on the verge of collapse, all thanks to the underhanded, despicable actions of the individual in charge. The year was 2010, and Tony was on the brink of becoming the best player on the team as Tim Duncan was nearing his mid-30s. Things were looking bright for Tony, with the Spurs finishing an impressive 61-21 as he entered his peak at the age of 28 and was married to Eva Longoria, who was stunning. Life was indeed good in San Antonio. However, in November 2010, the celebrity pair announced their divorce after Eva revealed that Tony had been unfaithful. Now, this wasn't particularly shocking news, not that it's acceptable by any means, but
come on, Cat, post his little ass up, man. He can't guard you, blah, blah, blah. Jimmy like, fuck out of here. He trash. Da, 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 da. Steal the ball again. They go down and score. Jimmy start talking to the GM, everybody in the gym. Yeah. Y'all better mother effing pay me. I'm like that. I'm like, he is nuts. I'm laughing, not realizing what's coming with this. Jimmy going crazy. Y'all think that team can win without me? I'm him. Pay me. Pay me. Mind you, he ain't took off his Jordan warm-up yet, right? He finally takes it off. He got the Timberwolves shirt on, but he cut the Minnesota out so it's just chest. Wow. He cut the Minnesota out the shorts. It's just short.
NBA players cheating on their spouses is about as surprising as it gets in a celebrity relationship. This wasn't even Tony's first instance of infidelity. After their marriage in 2007, a French model claimed to have met Tony at his own wedding and began engaging shortly after, but what made this truly contemptible was that it involved the wife of his friend and former teammate, Erin Berry, the ex-wife and high school sweetheart of Brent Berry. These weren't just teammates, they were meant to be close friends, attending each other's weddings, celebrating birthdays together, and hanging out as a group, supposedly having each other's backs. Instead, this flamboyant French guy betrayed his friend by sexting his wife before being found out by Avu, who escalated the situation, leading to Brent also filing for divorce shortly thereafter. Tony acknowledged the text messages but denied having any physical relationship with Erin, though who can really say for sure? Brent Berry has remained mostly silent about the scandal since, which is understandable, yet this guy who was meant to be a friend damaged his relationship with the mother of his children, whom he claims to have met at 16 when Cupid struck him with a love arrow.
But Shaq, we used to always play jokes. Yeah. Shaq is a jokester. Oh, yeah. So if one of the rookies would be in a stall, he would take a bucket and use the bathroom in it for about a week. Okay. And then all of a sudden he'll pour it on them. So
now Shaq was certainly nuts. I mean, I don't know if what GP said was true or not, but nonetheless.
Oh my God, Tony, you slippery. Just before the two scoundrels disrupted each other's families, Erin Berry commented on their relationship today, saying that after spending over half their lives together, the main attraction has always been laughter, and he still makes her laugh. He makes me feel cherished, it's never centered around him. We find immense joy in each other's presence, and I truly value spending time with him. After all these years, he remains my closest friend, and I want to be near him constantly. While people often discuss the challenges of marriage, I find myself questioning if the issue lies with me. Is there something I'm missing? Because for me, being married to Brent is not challenging at all. Now, we should pause the video and take a moment for Brent Barry, as writing this section is genuinely difficult for me. They ought to pack these two guys up and send them to Alcatraz immediately. Though Brennan was retired, he was still heavily involved with the Spurs organization, attending practices, workouts, and various other events, which infuriated the organization due to D'Antoni's actions. Pop even stated that had they not given him a substantial $52 million contract, they would have traded him instantly. I believe Pop should have taken that contract and moved him to a Tanzanian team or something similarly drastic. Honestly, what on earth is wrong with Tony Parker? Tony's hefty deal was the only reason he wasn't traded by the Spurs, and without it, the Spurs' chances in the 2014 finals would look considerably worse. At this time, Joby was arguably one of the best players, ranking in the top 10 for MVP voting. Yet after that season, Tony Parker was dubbed Mr. Spur, even if he seems like an absolute greaseball now, and even the GOAT himself criticized for being a poor teammate. Scottie Pippen remarked about his former friend, "I've watched Michael Jordan before joining the Bulls. You all have witnessed his play. He was a terrible player and tough to work with. It was all about one-on-one shots and making poor decisions." Clearly, Scottie is bitter, and his dynamic with MJ is incredibly complicated, but it doesn't negate the countless accounts of MJ being a tough person to deal with on the court. MJ often voiced his frustrations with teammates publicly, labeling them as garbage men and expressing how challenging it was for him to play with ball distribution issues. He had remarks about John Paxson and Ed Neely stating, "They really don't grasp the game. The white guys work hard, but they lack the talent. As for the rest, who knows what to expect? They aren't valuable at all." On Stacey King, he commented, "A big, fat guy, 1 rebound in 3 games, a power forward. Maybe they should call him powerless forward." It didn't matter who you were on the roster, whether a starter or bench warmer, when Jordan saw his teammate Charles Davis sorting tickets for family and friends for a game, MJ quipped, "They don't need tickets to watch you sit on the bench, they can visit your house for that." MJ was undeniably in. And kind of gets a pass for it since he was the ultimate competitor, but belittling teammates for wanting to have their families at a game certainly didn't help anyone put the ball in the basket that night. The conflicts involving Michael Jordan certainly don't end there, as Horace Grant erupted, yelling, "Screw you, MJ, all you care about is your points, and everyone knows it." Before Jordan retorted, "You don't care about anything but yourself, you're an idiot. You've messed up every play we've ever run, and you're too dense to even remember the plays. We ought to get rid of you." This wasn't truly the end of the feud, as after Grant played poorly, Jordan ordered a flight attendant on the team plane to inform Horace that he had lost his food privileges and would not get anything to eat during the flight. Jordan allowed his petty grudges to interfere with his on-court performance. After clashes with big man Bill Cartwright, Jordan told Sam Vincent, Horace Grant, and Scottie Pippen to not pass him the ball, or they wouldn't get it again anytime soon. Even Scottie Pippen was not spared from Jordan's ridicule, despite being one of the top players in the league and a key part of Jordan's legacy. After a subpar Game 7 in the Eastern Conference Finals, while dealing with extreme migraines, Jordan proceeded to tease Scottie for his light headache impacting his performance. I mean, I'm not trying to flatter LeBron here, as some of you old heads in the comments are already typing out, but for articles to emerge stating people don't want to play with LeBron in LA. Can you envision how many players wanted to avoid being bullied by MJ? I mean, according to his teammates, this guy practically tormented Rodney McCray when they were on opposing teams during scrimmages. Jordan was in McCray's face, yelling that he was a loser and had always been one. Now, after Jordan's torment, McCray struggled to make even a jumper, transforming from a decent player throughout his career to completely out of the league in just a few years. Jordan's intimidation didn't stop with just words. He frequently resorted to physical aggression against his teammates. He never bothered Will Perdue at all, hardly speaking to him, and when he did, he referred to him as Will Vanderbilt, as he felt he wasn't worthy of a Big Ten school name. Beyond verbal insults, Jordan hit Purdue during practice after he set an illegal screen on him, and Purdue wasn't the only one to receive such treatment during drills. Steve Kerr also got punched in the face by Jordan but seemed to brush it off, claiming he found it amusing while noting he enjoyed playing with the Jailblazers. So clearly, Kerr wasn't one to voice complaints, which was necessary to play next to Jordan. I mean, as I mentioned earlier, I understand that Jordan's competitiveness is what propelled him to greatness, but that same personality made him an awful teammate. The actions may seem pointless, yet removing Horace's food privileges isn't the reason for their 6 banners. If Jordan had been around during the social media era, his legacy would look entirely different. Just observe how the world perceives Jordan's punch on Sayre. It's viewed as a quirky incident, while the much more serious matter of him hitting Will Purdue is barely mentioned. In contrast, Draymond Green faced severe backlash for knocking some sense into Jordan Poole. The fact that we have video evidence of the Draymond Green knockout certainly escalated things, as Jordan Poole literally collapsed like a chair. Some suggested the situation worsened because Steve Kerr was more focused on discovering who leaked the video than on disciplining Draymond for injuring a teammate. Nevertheless, Steve Kerr appears to be quite astute in handling controversies and was likely trying to avoid escalating the situation further. Since then, CIS expressed that Draymond's actions disrupted their team chemistry after their 2022 championship win, placing the burden on Draymond's shoulders. Because he wouldn't let this matter fade away after the video of Draymond savagely attacking his coworker was released, Dre essentially went into seclusion in the California mountains, later surfacing with a documentary to express remorse and attempt to sway public opinion in his favor. I have no clue what this guy was thinking. Accompanying his claims of not caring about others' opinions with dramatic music would somehow lead people to view Draymond as misunderstood. His completely outrageous response ignited commentary channels like Moist Critical, amplifying the situation further. Draymond is attempting to promote the idea that he's a misunderstood star whose brilliance is unrecognized, but the reality is we all witnessed the video, and regardless of any justification he offers, we've watched his inability to control himself manifest in violent outbursts for years, culminating in him sucker punching a teammate and creating a documentary about it. Now, Draymond has started a podcast and received a similar reaction, as a player who was already not well-liked has become even more unpopular because after 2 years, he can't stop discussing why he punched Jordan Poole. He even insinuated that Jordan was disrespecting Steve Kerr and other nonsense. Years after the punch that completely wrecked his reputation, this now appears to be an excuse for behavior that would get the rest of us imprisoned. After Draymond retires, he is likely to leap into mainstream media, as he already has a role on Inside the NBA occasionally. I won't criticize his basketball mind or his commentaries since it is fairly good, but I will criticize him for executing the punch heard around the world and trying to exploit his selfish actions for sympathy. This undeniably makes him a candidate for one of the worst teammates ever. Perhaps he will fit in well with the TNT crew, as these guys also don't have spotless reputations. Charles Barkley is the most forthright man in Hollywood and has never shied away from voicing his opinions on any issue. Whether discussing a controversial topic where most would hesitate to safeguard their brand image or reflecting on his team's successes during his playing days, Barkley speaks candidly and acknowledged the following. Discussing Draymond's behavior, the last 2 years with the Rockets were quite frustrating for me as a player. I once hit Ola Harrington in practice, something few know about. He was putting in such great effort that I ended up throwing him down. Our head coach Rudy T., whom I had a lot of respect for, decided to bench me after a vote, which left me feeling humiliated. This happened because my performance had declined, causing me to resort to dirty plays. I see a similar trend with Draymond now. Barkley, for his part, wasn't exactly an encouraging presence in the locker room and often lacked work ethic during much of his career, something he himself acknowledges, which just amuses Chuck. Conversely, Shaquille O'Neal can be quite petty. He was known for his jokes. If a rookie was in a stall for too long, Shaq would find a bucket and use it for about a week, eventually pouring it over them. Shaq has always had a wild side, and I can't confirm GP's comments, but it's clear that Shaq's comedic persona frequently crosses the line. Post-playing, he has gained a reputation as somewhat of a bully and has consistently criticized other big men. Like his absurdly prolonged feud with Dwight Howard or subtle insults directed at Nicole Yick after clinching MVP, all of this, of course, arises from his colossal ego. Shaq enjoyed one of the finest primes in NBA history. However, despite playing for a long time, what kept him from being securely among the top 3 or 4 greatest players ever was his own self-sabotage, which involved getting out of shape and leading to future injuries, all while insisting that he be prioritized and that the team revolves around him. This led to repeated conflicts with teammates. Undoubtedly, the Kobe feud is likely the most notorious teammate conflict in sports history, as combining the league's most naturally talented player at that time with a work ethic that was notably deficient alongside a relentless workhorse who aimed to mentally overpower anyone in his path, ignited a nuclear fallout in the locker room, prompting teammates to take sides. But this was far from the conclusion of the issues arising from Shaq's ego. Now, Shaq does many commendable things off the court. I'm not implying he's a bad person, but he didn't always treat his teammates with utmost respect. Shaq claimed that he would permit only the starters on his team to converse with him because he considered NBA bench players as unworthy during his prime, and would also bring chaos to numerous locker rooms during his time with the Phoenix Suns. Shaq was involved in a well-known episode where, during a close practice session, O'Neal allegedly placed a teammate in a sleeper hold, rendering him unconscious. There are many tales of Shaq's locker room shenanigans, from tearing urinals off the wall to getting completely naked and wrestling with his teammates. Essentially, there seem to be 2 aspects of the diesel-loving friendly giant that he wants you to notice and accept, and the arrogant side where he easily puts others down to elevate himself. While Shaq isn't a villain or anything of that nature, he's definitely not a saint. Conversely, Jimmy Butler revels in the role of the antagonist. Throughout his career, he's shown a clear addiction to drama and attention, but few instances in his career were as tumultuous as his period in Minnesota. Upon his arrival, he cast himself as the ultimate team player, fulfilling a role as both a playmaker and defender. He claimed that he would allow Wiggins to take care of the scoring while he assumed the responsibilities of a glue guy and veteran leader, assisting to shape the young stars of the franchise alongside seasoned players like Derrick Rose. However, it didn't take long for everything to fall apart. Within what felt like moments, he transitioned from being the team captain to publicly berating his teammates, labeling them as soft, and doing everything possible to sever ties and escape Minnesota. It was not just dramatic. It was an exaggerated performance that left the franchise in disarray and fans bewildered. Zeph Jimmy, Wig Taj, and Cat Jimmy were all involved as Jimmy declared he wouldn't engage with him. Meanwhile, D. Rose was like, "Well, Derek, you're in the starting lineup," to which D. Rose responded, "All right, let's play." Jimmy then decided to join them, picked the Bad News Bears, and jumped the ball saying he had Cat. It was clear that Jimmy and Cat had a mutual dislike for one another, which adds a humorous twist to the situation. They started the game, throwing it to Cat on the first play. Jimmy stole it, went down to score, and trash-talked him, insisting, "Post him up, man." With Jimmy exclaiming he was trash, he stole the ball again and they scored, while he started yelling at the gym, "Y'all better pay me." I laughed, not realizing the chaos that was about to unfold. Jimmy was wild, demanding, "You think that team can win without me? Pay me, pay me." All of this while still wearing his Jordan warm-up, which he finally removed to reveal a Timberwolves shirt with the Minnesota Park cut out, leaving just his chest exposed. Yet it still wasn't enough for Jimmy. He craved even more attention, so what did he do next? He called Rachel Nichols to inform her of the situation. From the ease of his own home, exposing the entire situation for the world to witness, this guy wasn't upset, he was reveling in the chaos. A year prior, he was sharing his phone number with Minnesota fans, promoting the team as one of the top in basketball. Then, just like that, he was branding their star players as soft during his notorious interview with Nichols. It's evident that Jimmy wasn't as disturbed by the fallout as he was by the spotlight it brought him. His actions were not only about the situation at hand, they were about maintaining his presence in the media spotlight. After demanding a trade and sitting out games to hasten his departure, Jimmy ended up in Philadelphia, where once more, drama trailed him. The Sixers were chaotic, with players like I.D. Simmons, Butler, and Harris all vying for touches. It didn't take long for the situation to deteriorate, and Jimmy was at the forefront of every narrative about the team's dysfunction. Wherever Jimmy Butler goes, chaos and discord seem to follow, but then Miami entered the picture. Initially, everything appeared to settle. Jimmy found a niche in the Heat culture, and prospects looked bright. He was donning Tyler Hero's high school jerseys, laughing during practice, and cheering on his teammates through their victories and lows, but as soon as the team began to lose, the old Jimmy reemerged. He took to the media, calling them soft and venting to one of the NBA's most respected coaches. Once again, Jimmy found himself unable to stay out of the headlines, with dramas trailing him like a shadow. As we've likely seen by this point, Jimmy is once again portraying himself as the villain. He doesn't care if people love or hate him, he knows what he desires and how to achieve it. After pretending that there was no dysfunction within the team during trade rumors, he added to the spectacle by dyeing his hair in the colors of the team he allegedly wanted to join, then went public to escalate the situation because he grew weary of waiting. Now, I'm not criticizing Jimmy for seeking a max contract or even looking to switch teams to obtain it. Most individuals in his position would also aim to maximize their earnings to provide for their families for generations. However, the issue with Jimmy Butler is that while he embraces being in the spotlight for both good and bad reasons and, in fact, revels in it, he's also dragging along many people who did not choose to be caught up in this turmoil. The entire Miami Heat roster is now intertwined in this drama with him. Tyler Hero is having a career year but is now facing questions about Jimmy Butler while he simply wants to focus on his job and advance his career in the league. Like every team he's been a part of, he's using the Heat as a platform to secure his next contract, elevating himself while bringing them down the NBA ranks, cashing in significantly along the way. For this reason, he undoubtedly merits recognition as one of the worst locker room cancers in league history. There are numerous accounts of players who behave destructively, creating total mayhem behind the scenes, including the Ray Allen feud with the Celtics, Rajon Rondo's downfall in Dallas, and, of course, Gilbert Arenas and Javaris Crittenton brandishing firearms at each other. However, you might be unaware of the troubled career of Elvin Hayes. Hayes retired as one of the all-time greats, ranking third in rebounds and points in NBA history when he finished playing, but discussions about him are rare. This is partly because everyone who interacted with him disliked him. While his career statistics and individual honors are indisputable, his reputation as a team player and his overall contributions to winning remain highly questionable. He often appears to be the archetypal stat-driven player more intent on personal accolades than team success, and his relationships with teammates were, at best, tenuous. Just 5 years into his career, Hayes was traded in what seemed like little more than a roster adjustment, a clear indication that team dynamics were not functioning properly. His tenure with the Washington Bullets included several notable events, but it was also marred by controversies. During the 1978 NBA Finals, which marked the Bullets' sole championship victory, Hayes fouled out in Game 7 with 10 minutes remaining, a moment that fell short of heroic for a player of his stature. He failed to be the hero in those critical moments, and his performance certainly didn't align with the expectations placed upon him. Furthermore, Hayes had a far less favorable reputation as a teammate. In the 1970s, a coach from the San Diego Rockets described him as the most despicable person I've ever met in sports, a sentiment that was not unique to him. His relationship with Wes Unseld, the Bullets' heart and soul, was notoriously rocky. Unseld embodied qualities like patience, generosity, and selflessness, contrasting sharply with Hayes' demeanor. While Unseld's leadership focused on unity, Hayes often fostered a divisive atmosphere in the locker room. Their post-retirement paths further emphasized their disparities, with Unseld remaining linked to basketball and the Bullets organization, whereas Hayes ventured into his own peculiar business pursuits. Regarding his demeanor, Hayes was not particularly known for humility, often reacting sharply to reporters when things didn't go his way. Following a harsh playoff defeat, Hay snapped at the media, declaring, "I ain't talking to no press, all that stuff is history. If you want history, you can go to the library." This was not a singular occurrence. Hay subtly criticized his teammate Mike Cub, remarking on Cub's scoring skills while suggesting that the center position was escaping criticism too easily. He also made headlines with his notorious response during a trip to China when the Bulls owner led the team to the Great Wall. Hay refused to disembark the bus, stating, "I've seen a big wall before." He was someone who rarely appeared to focus on the larger picture. His obstinacy, disinterest in connecting with fans, and refusal to show appreciation for the game painted him as someone prioritizing his own legacy over any team's success. Consequently, his personal legacy has been overshadowed by his ego, which bears resemblance to that of Latrell Sprewell, known as one of the NBA's most notorious hotheads. Sprewell's career was filled with drama, controversy, and events that ultimately hindered his promising path. Before becoming a two-time All-Star, Sprewell shone in his second season, finishing 11th in MVP voting and earning All-Star selections in 3 of his first 5 years. His talent was undeniable, and he seemed destined to be one of the league's elite. However, his stint with Golden State came to a brutal and violent conclusion. After facing criticism for his playmaking, Sprewell had a serious clash with coach P.J. Charismo. This led to one of the most notorious incidents in NBA history when Charismo approached him for additional coaching. Sprewell lost control, threatening to kill him before grabbing him by the throat and dragging him backward for several seconds. Subsequently, 20 minutes later, Sprewell returned to throw a punch, resulting in the longest suspension in NBA history at that time. However, this was not the first time Sprewell made headlines for negative reasons. His career was overshadowed by multiple violent outbursts. As a rookie, he fought Byron Houston, a much larger teammate often likened to Mike Tyson in physique. 2 years later, he clashed with Jerome Kyrie and allegedly returned to practice with a Tukes 4, threatening to bring a gun to resolve their issues. Sprewell's image as a ticking time bomb only intensified from there. Following the choking incident with the coach, his career was never the same. Although he made one more All-Star appearance, he was never again a central star. His role diminished, and by the time he spent his final years with the Minnesota Timberwolves, he was merely a veteran starter. In his last season, he averaged nearly 13 points per game, but after declining a 3-year, $21 million contract from the Wolves, he never played again. Sprewell turned down the offer, famously claiming that he had a family to feed, while hoping for a more lucrative deal from a contender. When no such opportunity arose, his NBA career ended. Concluded in the most damaging manner imaginable now, this is indeed unfortunate, but what's even worse are the accusations emerging at Fox Sports. Check out that video linked here, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.